Marcus Thompson thought he was building the perfect family. A devoted father, a new wife who seemed to love his daughter, a home filled with laughter and Sunday dinners. But behind closed doors, 8-year-old Zoe was living a nightmare that no one could see. This is the story of how one forgotten baby monitor, a canceled shift, and a father's awakening changed everything. And how an entire community came together to protect a child who had been suffering in silence. What you're about to hear isn't just about one family's crisis. It's about the warning signs we miss, the courage it takes to speak up, and the power of intervention when someone finally listens. Marcus Thompson had been a single father for 2 years before he met Jennifer Hayes. After losing his wife Ayanna to breast cancer, he'd rebuilt his life around one mission: keeping the promise he made at her bedside. Zoe would never want for love. She would never feel abandoned. She would know that her father would move heaven and earth for her. Working double shifts as a hospital nurse in Atlanta meant sacrifice. Marcus missed school plays and parent-teacher conferences. He survived on coffee and 4 hours of sleep. But every paycheck meant dance lessons for Zoe, books for her collection, and the stability Ayanna had made him promise to provide. Zoe was her mother's daughter, bright, creative, with an infectious laugh that could light up a room. She drew constantly, filling sketchbooks with elaborate scenes of families and gardens and fantastical creatures. Her 3rd-grade teacher called her gifted. Her grandmother said she had an old soul. Marcus just knew she was his entire world. When Jennifer entered their lives, it felt like an answer to prayers Marcus hadn't known how to pray. She was a physical therapist at the hospital, patient and kind, with a gentle way of talking about grief that made Marcus feel less alone. She brought homemade lunches during his breaks. She remembered the anniversary of Ayanna's death and didn't try to fill the silence with empty platitudes. For 18 months, Jennifer became part of their healing. Zoe seemed to blossom around her. Baking cookies together, shopping for school clothes, reading bedtime stories in the voices that made Zoe giggle. Marcus watched his daughter smile again and thought he was giving her what she needed most: a complete family. The wedding was small and beautiful. Zoe wore a purple dress and carried flowers. In the photos, they looked like the picture of blended family success. The neighborhood celebrated Marcus for moving forward. His co-workers praised his courage to love again. Even Ayanna's mother, initially hesitant, welcomed Jennifer with cautious hope. The first 6 months of marriage felt like redemption. Jennifer quit her job to focus on homemaking, insisting that Marcus deserved support after years of carrying everything alone. She redecorated their home with warm colors and family photos. She attended every school function, volunteered for the PDA, and posted beautiful moments on social media. Zoe's art projects, family dinners, weekend adventures. But Marcus worked nights. And nights were when everything changed. He started noticing small things. Zoe grew quieter. She stopped showing him her drawings. When he came home from overnight shifts, she'd cling to him with an intensity that felt different from normal missing daddy affection. She started having nightmares. "Jennifer says I need to be tougher," Zoe said once, when Marcus asked why she seemed sad. "What do you mean, baby?" "She says I'm too soft. That mom babied me too much." Marcus felt a flash of anger but pushed it down. Blended families were hard. Adjustment took time. Jennifer was probably just trying to help Zoe grow up, maybe being a little too strict. He'd talked to her about it. But when he tried, Jennifer cried. She was overwhelmed, she said, trying so hard, worried she'd never be good enough. Didn't Marcus see how difficult it was to parent someone else's child? She loved Zoe, but Zoe was pulling away, being difficult, testing boundaries. Marcus, exhausted and wanting to believe in his new family, told Zoe to give Jennifer a chance, to be respectful, to understand that Jennifer was doing her best. Zoe stopped trying to tell him. Before we continue, I want to be transparent with you. This story deals with difficult topics: child mistreatment and family intervention. If you or someone you know is concerned about a child's safety, please reach out to the National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-422-4453. They have trained counselors available 24/7. If stories that shed light on hidden family struggles and the power of community intervention matter to you, please subscribe. These conversations are uncomfortable but necessary. Now, let's continue with what happened when Marcus's eyes were finally opened. The baby monitor had been forgotten in Zoe's room for months, a relic from when she was younger and had night terrors after Ayana's death. It sat on the bookshelf behind a stack of art supplies, its receiver still plugged in downstairs in the kitchen, hidden behind the coffee maker. Marcus's shift got cancelled. A staffing mix-up meant he was coming home 12 hours early, at 2 p.m. instead of 2 a.m. He texted Jennifer but got no response. Probably grocery shopping, he thought. He'd surprise them both. Maybe take Zoe out for ice cream before dinner. He parked in the driveway and noticed Jennifer's car was still there. The curtains were drawn, unusual for the middle of the day. He walked up the front steps, already thinking about how he'd surprise Zoe, imagining her face lighting up when she saw him home early. He unlocked the door quietly, planning to jump out and make her laugh. But the moment he stepped inside, he heard his daughter crying. Not regular crying. The kind of desperate, breathless sobbing that makes a parent's blood run cold. It was coming from the kitchen speaker, the baby monitor receiver he'd forgotten existed. "Please stop, please." Zoe's voice cracked through the static. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." Jennifer's voice cut through, cold and sharp in a way Marcus had never heard. "You're going to learn respect. I don't care what your father says. When he's gone, this is MY house, and you'll follow MY rules." Marcus stood frozen in his own entryway, his keys still in his hand, his heart hammering against his ribs. "But I didn't do anything wrong," Zoe sobbed. "I just wanted to draw." That's the problem. You don't get to just do what you want. You think you're special because your mother died? You think that gives you the right to waltz around here like a princess? Your father has bent over backwards for you, and this is how you repay him, by being ungrateful and difficult. "I want my daddy," Zoe whimpered, and Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. "Your daddy isn't here. And when he gets home, you won't say a word about this, will you? Because who do you think he'll believe? His wife, or a lying little girl who's been trying to get rid of me since day one? You've already tried to turn him against me, and it didn't work. He chose me. He married me. And you're stuck with me." The keys fell from Marcus's hand and clattered on the floor. He didn't remember moving, but suddenly he was taking the stairs 3 at a time, his vision tunneling, every instinct screaming to get to his daughter. He found them in Zoe's room. Jennifer standing in the center, arms crossed, face twisted with an expression Marcus had never seen before. Zoe was sitting on the floor surrounded by torn drawings. Her artwork, months of careful creativity, ripped to pieces. Her sketchbooks lay open, pages torn out. The colored pencils Ayana had given her for her 7th birthday, her last birthday with her mother, were snapped in half and scattered across the carpet. His daughter's face was streaked with tears, her eyes swollen and red, her small body curled in on itself protectively. When she saw him, her expression shifted from fear to desperate hope. "Daddy!" Jennifer spun around, her expression transforming so quickly it was like watching someone flip a switch. The cold anger melted into surprise, then concern, then practiced confusion. "Marcus! You're home early. Thank God." Zoe had a complete tantrum and destroyed her room. "I was just trying to calm her down. She's been having these episodes, and I didn't want to worry you, but I think we need to talk about getting her evaluated." "I heard everything." Marcus's voice was barely above a whisper, but it cut through her explanation like a blade. He held up his phone, where he'd hit record the moment he recognized what he was hearing. "The baby monitor. I heard every word. And I recorded it." The mask dropped completely. For just a moment, Jennifer's face showed something cold and calculating. her eyes narrowing as she processed what this meant. Then she lunged for sympathy, her voice rising, tears suddenly streaming down her face. "You don't understand what it's like with her when you're gone. She's manipulative, Marcus. She's been trying to turn you against me from the beginning. I've tried so hard to love her, to be good to her, but she fights me every step of the way. Do you know how exhausting it is? How thankless. I gave up my career for this family. Get out of her room. Marcus, please, you're not seeing the full picture. Get out." Something in his voice must have finally penetrated because Jennifer went silent. She stared at him for a long moment, then at Zoe, then back at him. "You're going to regret this," she said quietly. "I've been nothing but good to you and your daughter. Out. Now." Jennifer pushed past him, her shoulder deliberately hitting his arm. He heard her footsteps storming down the hallway, the guest room door slamming. Marcus didn't care. He crossed the room in 3 steps and dropped to his knees beside his daughter. "Baby girl," he whispered. "I'm here. I'm so sorry. I'm here now." Zoe collapsed into his arms, sobbing so hard her whole body shook. Marcus held her, rocking her gently, whispering apologies and promises into her hair. Around them lay the evidence of what had been happening in his absence. Not just today's destruction, but months of silent suffering he'd been too blind to see. That night, after Jennifer had locked herself in the guest room, Marcus sat with Zoe in her bed. He'd cleaned up the torn drawings, saved every piece. He'd ordered pizza, Zoe's favorite, and they'd eaten it sitting on her bedroom floor. He wasn't leaving her side. Not tonight. Not ever again without making sure she was safe. "Can you tell me everything, baby?" he asked softly. "I know it's hard, but I need to know. And I promise you on your mama's memory, I will believe every word you say." Zoe was quiet for a long time, picking at the edge of her blanket. When she finally spoke, her voice was so small he had to lean in to hear her. "It started after she stopped working," Zoe began. "At first, it was little things. She'd get mad if I left my shoes out or forgot to make my bed. But then it got meaner." She told him about the punishments, how Jennifer would send her to the basement for hours at a time, saying she needed to think about her behavior. How Zoe would sit on the cold concrete floor in the dark, counting the minutes, terrified of spiders and the strange sounds the old house made. She told him about mealtimes, how Jennifer started serving everyone else first, making Zoe wait at the table watching everyone eat. "She said I needed to learn patience and gratitude," Zoe whispered. "She said I was spoiled and needed to understand that food wasn't guaranteed." Marcus felt bile rising in his throat but kept his expression neutral, nodding, encouraging her to continue. "And my hair." Zoe touched her natural curls, which Marcus had always been so careful with, just like Ayanna had taught him. "She said I was too tender-headed, that I was being dramatic. She'd yank the comb through it and tell me to stop crying. One time she said she should just cut it all off because I didn't appreciate her help." The isolation had been systematic. Every time Dorothy called to invite Zoe over, Jennifer suddenly had plans. A special outing, a doctor's appointment, a playdate with a child from school that never actually existed. When Marcus's sister Carmen tried to take Zoe to the museum, Jennifer claimed Zoe had been misbehaving and needed to stay home as punishment. She'd schedule stuff during the family gatherings, Zoe explained. Ballet classes that were mandatory, or birthday parties I couldn't miss. And when I'd get sad about missing Grandma Dorothy, she'd say I was being ungrateful because she was trying to give me activities and opportunities. But the worst part, Zoe said, wasn't the punishments or the isolation. It was the words. She'd tell me that Mom would be disappointed in me, that I was the reason you looked so tired and stressed, that you only married her because you couldn't handle taking care of me by yourself. Zoe's voice cracked. She said you wished I was easier, that I was the problem in the family. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. "Baby, that's not true. Not one word of it is true. I tried to tell you, Daddy," Zoe continued, her own tears falling again. "Remember when I said Jennifer was being mean? But then she cried and you looked so sad, and she said I was lying. She told me later that if I told you again, you'd send me away. That there were places for kids who lied about their parents. Zoe, I would never. I know that now. But I was scared, Daddy. And you looked so happy with her at first. I didn't want to ruin it for you. You'd been so sad after Mom died, and then you were smiling again, and I thought maybe if I just tried harder, if I was better, Jennifer would be nice to me like she was at the beginning. Marcus pulled his daughter close, his heart shattering into pieces. Listen to me. You are not responsible for any adult's behavior. Not mine, not Jennifer's, not anyone's. You are 8 years old, and your only job is to be a kid, to be safe, to be loved. And I failed you. I failed to protect you, and I will spend the rest of my life making sure you know how sorry I am. You didn't know, Zoe whispered. I should have. The signs were there, and I didn't look hard enough. But I'm looking now, baby girl. I'm looking now, and I'm going to fix this. Marcus didn't sleep that night. After Zoe finally drifted off, curled against him, her hand clutching his shirt like she was afraid he'd disappear. He lay in the darkness of her room and made plans. At 3 a.m., he got up carefully and went downstairs to his laptop. He started documenting everything. Dates he could remember, things Zoe had said that he'd dismissed, changes in her behavior he'd attributed to normal adjustment. He took photos of the torn artwork. He saved the audio recording from the baby monitor to 3 different locations. He researched family therapists who specialized in childhood trauma. He looked up lawyers who handled custody and protection cases. He made a list of everyone who needed to know what had happened. At 5:30 a.m., he called his mother-in-law. Dorothy answered on the second ring, her voice alert despite the early hour. Marcus. What's wrong? Dorothy, I need you to come over. As soon as you can. It's about Zoe. Is she hurt? What happened? She's safe now. But there are things I need to tell you. Things that have been happening. Things I should have seen. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She arrived in 15. Marcus met her at the door, and she took one look at his face and pulled him into a hug. Tell me, she said simply. So he did. He told her everything Zoe had revealed. He played her the recording. He showed her the photos of the destroyed artwork. And when he finished, Dorothy stood in his kitchen with tears streaming down her face. His sister Carmen came next, fury and love radiating from her in equal measure. I'm calling Aunt Patricia, and Cousin Michelle, and everyone who's been worried sick about that baby. By noon, Marcus's living room was filled with family. Jennifer had left early that morning, throwing clothes in a suitcase and screaming about lawyers and defamation. Good, Marcus thought. Let her go. What he needed now was a plan to help his daughter heal. If you noticed a child in your life becoming withdrawn or afraid around a caregiver, would you speak up? What signs would make you take action? Share your thoughts below. And remember, if you suspect child abuse, trust your instincts and reach out to local child protective services or call the National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-422-4453. Being wrong is better than staying silent when a child needs help. The first therapy appointment was scheduled for 3 days after Jennifer left. Marcus found Dr. Keisha Williams, a child psychologist who specialized in trauma and family dynamics. She had kind eyes and a gentle voice, and she met with Marcus alone first. I want you to understand something, Dr. Williams said. Healing isn't linear. Zoe is going to have good days and hard days. She's going to test boundaries because her trust was broken by someone who was supposed to protect her. Your job isn't to fix everything immediately. It's to show up consistently and prove that you're safe. Marcus nodded, taking notes like his daughter's life depended on it. Because it did. Can I ask you something? Marcus said. How did I miss it? I'm a nurse. I'm trained to see signs of abuse in my patients. How did I not see it in my own home? Dr. Williams leaned forward. Because you're human. Because manipulators are skilled at what they do. Because you were grieving and exhausted and trying to build something good for your daughter. The important thing is that when you finally saw it, you acted. Many parents don't. Many parents choose their partners over their children. You chose Zoe. The sessions with Zoe started slow. For the first 3 weeks, Zoe barely spoke in therapy. She'd draw instead, filling page after page with images that made Marcus's chest ache. Dark basements, closed doors, a small figure alone in corners. But Dr. Williams was patient. She'd narrate what she saw in the drawings. "This looks like a scary place. Was this somewhere you had to be?" And gradually, Zoe started to nod. Then to add details. Then, finally, to talk. At home, Marcus made changes. He cut back to part-time hours at the hospital, taking a significant pay cut but gaining something invaluable: time. Dorothy moved into the guest room temporarily, providing constant presence and love. Carmen came over 3 times a week with dinner. Aunt Patricia organized a rotating schedule where family members were always available. "You don't have to do this alone," Dorothy told Marcus one evening. "That was the problem before. You thought you had to carry everything yourself. Let us help carry Zoe. Let us carry you." The neighborhood started to notice changes too. Marcus's next-door neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who'd always waved politely but kept distance, brought over homemade dumplings one Saturday. "I saw Jennifer leave," she said carefully. "And I wanted you to know I heard things sometimes. Through the walls. I thought about saying something, but I didn't want to intrude. I should have said something. I'm sorry." Marcus felt a flash of anger, then let it go. Mrs. Chen looked genuinely remorseful. "If you ever hear anything that concerns you again," he said, "please intrude. Please say something." She nodded. "I will. And if you ever need anything, if Zoe needs anything, my door is always open." But healing wasn't smooth. A month after Jennifer left, Zoe started having nightmares again. She'd wake up screaming, convinced Jennifer was in the house. Marcus would hold her and turn on every light, walking through each room to prove they were alone. School became complicated. Zoe's teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, called Marcus in for a conference. "Zoe's been getting into conflicts with other students," she explained. "She's become very defensive, especially with authority figures. Yesterday, I asked her to put away her art supplies, and she had what looked like a panic attack." Marcus explained what had happened, what Zoe had been through. Ms. Rodriguez's expression shifted from concern to understanding. "I wish I'd known sooner. I noticed she seemed different after your marriage, but I assumed it was normal adjustment. I should have dug deeper." Together, they created a plan. Zoe would have a safe space in the classroom, a quiet corner where she could go when overwhelmed. Ms. Rodriguez would use gentler language for instructions. The school counselor would check in with Zoe twice a week. But the biggest obstacle came from an unexpected place: the legal system. Jennifer filed for spousal support and a share of the marital assets. Her lawyer painted a picture of a devoted stepmother who'd sacrificed her career, only to be cast aside based on the unreliable testimony of a young child. They requested custody visits with Zoe, claiming Jennifer had bonded with her stepdaughter and had rights. Marcus's lawyer, Sharon Mitchell, was a fierce woman in her 50s who specialized in family protection cases. "They won't win," she assured Marcus. "You have the recording. You have documentation. You have witnesses. But I need you to prepare Zoe for the possibility that she might have to talk to a judge." The thought made Marcus sick. His daughter had been through enough. But Sharon was firm. "Sometimes children have to be brave in court to be safe. I'll prepare her. Dr. Williams will prepare her. And you'll be there every step of the way." The court-appointed child advocate, Mr. Johnson, came to interview Zoe at home. He was a kind black man in his 60s who reminded Marcus of his own father. He sat on the floor with Zoe and asked gentle questions while she drew. "Can you tell me about your stepmom?" he asked. Zoe's hand paused over her drawing. "Which version?" "What do you mean, sweetheart? The version when Daddy was home, or the version when he wasn't?" Mr. Johnson's expression didn't change, but Marcus saw something shift in his eyes. "Tell me about both versions." Zoe did. And when she finished, Mr. Johnson closed his notebook and looked at Marcus. "I'll be recommending no contact whatsoever. That woman doesn't get within 100 yards of this child. Word spread through the neighborhood, not through gossip, but through quiet conversations and shared concern. People Marcus barely knew started showing up with support. The owner of Zoe's favorite bookstore, Ms. Angela, started a weekly art club specifically for Zoe and 3 other children who'd experienced family trauma. "Creative expression heals," she said simply. "And she needs friends who understand." Marcus's co-workers organized a meal train, ensuring he and Zoe had home-cooked dinners every night for 3 months. His supervisor adjusted his schedule permanently, giving him regular daytime hours so he'd never miss another bedtime. The pastor from Iana's old church, a place Marcus hadn't been able to enter since the funeral, reached out. "You don't have to come to services," Reverend Thomas said, "but our community is here for Zoe. We have a children's grief group, and we have resources for families in crisis." Even Zoe's dance teacher, Miss Lauren, who Jennifer had made excuses to, called Marcus directly. "I heard what happened. I want you to know that Zoe's classes are free for the next year. Dance was something she loved before all this, and I want to help her find that joy again." The support was overwhelming. Marcus had spent so long trying to do everything alone, convinced that asking for help was weakness. Now he understood, accepting help was how families and communities survived. Have you ever been part of a community that rallied around a family in crisis? What role did you play, or what role would you want to play? If you know a family going through difficulty, don't wait for them to ask for help. Offer specific support. Instead of, "Let me know if you need anything," try, "I'm bringing dinner on Tuesday," or "Can I pick up the kids from school this week?" Share your thoughts on community support below. How have you helped others or been helped yourself during hard times? 6 months after Jennifer left, Marcus and Zoe stood in family court. It was the hearing to finalize the protective order and settle the divorce. Zoe wore her favorite purple dress, the same color she'd worn at the wedding, but this time it meant something different. This time it was armor. Sharon Mitchell had prepared them thoroughly. "The judge is fair," she'd said, "and Mr. Johnson's report is damning. But Jennifer's lawyer is going to try to paint her as a victim. Stay calm, stick to the facts, and remember, the truth is on your side." Jennifer sat across the courtroom with her attorney, looking nothing like the woman who'd once brought Marcus homemade lunches at the hospital. Her expression was hard, calculating. When her eyes met Marcus's, there was no remorse, only anger at being caught. The judge, the Honorable Patricia Okonkwo, was a black woman in her 60s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She read through the documents in silence, the recording transcript, the child advocate's report, statements from Dr. Williams, the school counselor, and multiple witnesses. "Ms. Hayes," Judge Okonkwo finally said, looking up, "I've reviewed all the evidence in this case. Your attorney claims you were a devoted stepmother who sacrificed your career for this family. But the evidence tells a very different story." Jennifer's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, children can be unreliable witnesses and—" "Counselor," the judge interrupted, her voice sharp, "I have a recording of your client threatening an 8-year-old child. I have documentation of systematic isolation from family. I have testimony from a trained child psychologist. And I have this child's own voice, consistent and clear about what she experienced. Do not insult this court by suggesting an 8-year-old orchestrated this elaborate deception." The lawyer sat down. Judge Okonkwo turned to Zoe, her expression softening. "Zoe, sweetheart, I know this has been hard. You've been very brave. I want you to know that this court's job is to keep you safe. Do you understand?" Zoe nodded, holding tight to Marcus's hand. "You won't have to see Ms. Hayes again unless you choose to when you're much older. She will not be allowed to contact you or come near you. Your daddy is going to keep taking care of you, and no one is going to take you away from him." "Okay. Okay," Zoe whispered. The judge's gavel came down. Permanent protective order granted. Divorce finalized. No spousal support due to Jennifer's conduct. Marcus felt 6 months of tension drain from his body. Outside the courthouse, Zoe looked up at her father. "Is it really over?" "The court part is over, baby girl. But the healing part, that's just beginning. And we're going to do it together." 1 year after Jennifer left, Marcus stood in the doorway of Zoe's room watching his daughter paint. Not draw, paint. She'd discovered a love for watercolors in therapy, and her walls were now covered with bright, beautiful scenes. Flowers and sunshine. Families laughing. Gardens full of life. The nightmares had decreased to once or twice a month. Zoe smiled more. Laughed more. She'd rejoined her dance class and performed in the spring recital, her face glowing with joy as she twirled across the stage. Dorothy and Carmen and Aunt Patricia had filled the front row, cheering louder than anyone. School had become a place of growth again. Ms. Rodriguez reported that Zoe was thriving, her confidence rebuilt, her creativity flourishing. She'd even made 2 close friends, Emma and Sophie, who came over for art sessions every Saturday. But the biggest change was in how Zoe viewed herself. Dr. Williams says I'm resilient, Zoe told Marcus one evening as they cooked dinner together. A new tradition they'd started. Do you know what that means? Tell me, baby. It means I can bounce back from hard things. It means what happened to me was bad, but it doesn't get to define who I am. I get to decide who I am. Marcus had to turn away to wipe his eyes. That's exactly right. And who are you? Zoe thought about it, stirring the pasta sauce carefully. I'm an artist. I'm a good friend. I'm brave even when I'm scared. And I'm loved. Yes, you are. So loved. The family had transformed too. Marcus had learned to accept help, to build a village around his daughter instead of trying to carry everything alone. Dorothy had become a permanent fixture, moving into a small apartment nearby so she could be available whenever needed. Carmen's daughter, Maya, had become like a sister to Zoe. Even the neighborhood had changed. Mrs. Chen organized a block watch program focused not just on crime, but on wellness. Neighbors looking out for each other, checking on families, creating a culture where asking, "Are you okay?" was normal and expected. Marcus's co-workers had rallied around him so thoroughly that his supervisor created a new hospital policy. Any employee dealing with family crisis could access emergency scheduling adjustments and counseling resources. Marcus's story had sparked change that would help countless other families. 18 months after the courtroom victory, Ms. Angela from the bookstore approached Marcus with an idea. Zoe's art club has been such a success, she said. And I've been thinking, there are so many other children who've experienced trauma who could benefit from a safe creative space. Would you and Zoe be willing to help me start a non-profit? A program specifically for kids healing from family crisis. Marcus looked at his daughter, who was helping a younger child mix paint colors in the corner of the bookstore. Zoe's patience and gentleness with the little boy made his heart swell. What do you think, Zoe? He called over. Want to help other kids through art? Zoe's face lit up. Really? I could help them. You could. You know what it's like to be scared and hurt. You know what healing looks like. You could show them it's possible. And so, Zoe's Colors, a non-profit art therapy program for children experiencing family trauma, was born. Zoe became the junior ambassador, attending sessions twice a week, sharing her story when she felt comfortable, and simply being present for other children who needed to know they weren't alone. Marcus watched his daughter bloom in this role. She'd taken her pain and transformed it into purpose. She'd taken what was meant to break her and used it to build something beautiful. At the one-year anniversary celebration of Zoe's Colors, they had 20 children enrolled and a waiting list of 30 more. Local therapists referred patients. Schools sent students. Parents drove from neighboring counties. Zoe stood in front of the crowd, donors, volunteers, families, with a microphone in her hand. At 10 years old, she was still small for her age, but she stood tall. My name is Zoe Thompson, she began, her voice steady. 2 years ago, someone who was supposed to take care of me hurt me instead. I was scared and alone, and I didn't think anyone would believe me. But my daddy believed me. My grandma believed me. My whole family believed me. And now I want other kids to know, if you're scared, tell someone. Keep telling until someone believes you. Because you deserve to be safe. You deserve to be loved. And you deserve to heal. The room erupted in applause. Marcus stood in the back, tears streaming down his face, watching his daughter, his brave, brilliant, beautiful daughter, turn her trauma into triumph. Dorothy squeezed his arm. Ayanna would be so proud. She would, Marcus whispered. God, she would. The impact of that one forgotten baby monitor, that one canceled shift, that one moment of finally seeing the truth, had rippled outward in ways Marcus never could have imagined. 3 families had come forward after hearing Zoe's story, recognizing similar patterns in their own homes and seeking help before things escalated. The hospital where Marcus worked implemented mandatory training on recognizing signs of child abuse, not just physical, but emotional and psychological. Mrs. Chen's Neighborhood Watch program spread to 6 other communities, creating networks of support and awareness. And Jennifer. She'd moved to another state, but the protective order followed her. She'd tried to rebuild her image on social media, but mutual acquaintances had quietly shared the truth. Her pattern had been exposed, and she'd never have the opportunity to hurt another child the way she'd hurt Zoe. This story shows how one act of awareness, one moment of finally seeing the truth, can transform lives and communities. Don't forget to like and subscribe so this story can reach the right audience and we can spread more awareness about what people are going through in secret. 3 years after that life-changing day when Marcus came home early, the Thompson family continues to thrive and inspire. Zoe is now 11 years old and thriving in middle school. She's an honor roll student with a particular gift for art and creative writing. Her artwork has been featured in local galleries, and she uses the platform to advocate for children's safety. The nightmares are rare now, maybe once every few months, and when they come, she has the tools to process them. Zoe's Colors has expanded to 3 locations across Atlanta, serving over 150 children annually. The program has become a model that other cities are replicating. Zoe remains the heart of the organization, mentoring younger children and proving that healing is not just possible, it's powerful. Marcus returned to full-time nursing but with a new focus. He now works in pediatrics and serves on the hospital's Child Protection Committee. He's become a vocal advocate for family support systems and trains other healthcare workers on recognizing signs of abuse. His message is simple: listen to children. Believe them. Act. Dorothy has become an integral part of their daily lives, picking Zoe up from school, attending every art show and school event. She and Marcus have rebuilt the extended family connections that Jennifer tried to sever. He's too busy building the beautiful life his daughter deserves. This story isn't just about one family's crisis and recovery. It's about the power of awareness, the courage to act, and the strength of community support. Every day, children suffer in silence behind closed doors. They suffer because adults miss the signs, dismiss their concerns, or choose not to get involved. But it doesn't have to be this way. You have the power to be the person who sees, the person who listens, the person who acts. Maybe you're a parent who needs to have a difficult conversation with your child about their safety. Maybe you're a neighbor who's been noticing concerning signs. Maybe you're a teacher, a coach, a family member who has that nagging feeling that something isn't right. Trust that feeling. Investigate. Ask questions. Be willing to be uncomfortable, because a child's safety is worth any awkwardness. And if you're someone who experienced what Zoe experienced, if you survived childhood trauma, please know this: your story matters. Your healing matters. You deserved better then, and you deserve support now. It's never too late to seek help, to process what happened, and to reclaim your life. The cycle of silence ends when one person decides to speak up, when one person decides to believe, when one person decides to act. If this story touched your heart or opened your eyes to signs you might have been missing, please like this video. Your engagement helps this message reach other families who might need to hear it. Subscribe to this channel for more stories that shine light on hidden struggles and celebrate the power of human compassion and intervention. These aren't always easy stories to tell or hear, but they're necessary. Most importantly, I want to challenge you. What will you do differently after hearing Zoe's story? Will you pay closer attention to the children in your life? Will you trust your instincts when something feels wrong? Will you be brave enough to ask difficult questions? Here are resources you can save and share. Share this video with someone who works with children. Teachers, coaches, youth leaders, healthcare workers. The more people who understand these dynamics, the more children we can protect. Comment below with one action you'll take this week to make a difference. Maybe it's having a conversation with your child about body safety. Maybe it's checking in with a family you're concerned about. Maybe it's volunteering with a child advocacy organization. Whatever it is, commit to it publicly. Accountability creates action. Remember, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to care enough to pay attention and brave enough to speak up. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And thank you for being willing to be the difference in a child's life. Together, we can create a world where every child is safe, believed, and protected. Where no child suffers in silence. Where communities look out for their most vulnerable members. Be that person. Be Zoe's hero. Be the one who sees. Until next time, stay compassionate, stay aware, and keep making a difference.